love you so much, my sweet boy.
Once upon a time, in the peaceful village of Umueze, there was a beautiful young woman named Adobe. Adobe had a smile brighter than the sun and laughter as soothing as the river that flowed gently through the village. She married a strong, hard-working man named Okeke. They were happy and deeply in love. The villagers envied their love and expected nothing but happiness and many children for them. Adobe was respected by all, praised for her kindness and good manners. Everyone looked forward to seeing their family grow. Not long after their marriage, Adobe became pregnant. The village rejoiced and Okeke boasted proudly about becoming a father. He would carry Adobe around, making sure she was comfortable, while Adobe sang softly to their unborn baby. Months passed quickly, and the day came for Adobe to have her baby. The whole village waited outside their small huts, excitedly anticipating the new arrival. Adobe gave birth to a beautiful girl. Everyone celebrated and danced happily. But their joy did not last long. Just a few weeks later, the baby became sick and died suddenly. Adobe cried bitterly, holding her lifeless child, begging her to wake up. Okeke comforted her, promising they would have another child who would stay. Another year passed, and Adobe had another baby. Again, the villagers rejoiced, but shortly after birth, the child became sick and died just like the first. People whispered quietly, wondering why Adobe's babies did not survive. As the years went by, Adobe gave birth to many babies, but none survived. Each death broke her heart more than the last. The villagers started avoiding her, whispering that she was cursed. Okeke grew tired and unhappy. He no longer looked at Adobe with love. Instead, he blamed her for their misfortune. One day, Okeke married another woman named Olooma. Olooma was loud and mean-spirited. She immediately began to mock Adobe, laughing at her empty arms. Soon after, Olooma had a healthy baby boy, making Adobe feel even worse. Not satisfied, Okeke married 2 more wives, Nneka and Uju. Like Olooma, they had babies who survived, and they mocked Adobe every day. Adobe's pain grew deeper. Every morning, she heard the new wives laughing outside her hut, calling her names and mocking her childlessness. They threw rotten fruits at her doorsteps and spread cruel rumors about her. Adobe tried everything to break the curse. She visited old healers and begged the river goddess to help her. Each night, she knelt by the river bank, tears streaming down her face, pleading for mercy. But nothing changed. Her babies kept dying and the wives' laughter became louder. Years passed painfully. Okeke abandoned Adobe completely, no longer speaking to her. She was alone and forgotten. But one day, Adobe discovered she was pregnant again. This time, she was afraid rather than joyful, praying desperately that the baby would live. When the baby was born, he was small but healthy. Adobe named him Chidi, meaning God exists. Every day she held her breath, afraid that Chidi might leave her like the others. True enough, the baby became ill many times, fighting death repeatedly. But Chidi survived each sickness, growing stronger each day. Despite Chidi's survival, the cruel wives continued mocking Adobe. They called Chidi names, saying he was an Obanje who would leave soon. But Chidi defied them, growing into a clever, wise, and extraordinary child. He excelled in school, outshining all the other children in Okeke's household. As Chidi grew, he became a symbol of hope for Adobe. Village began to respect him, amazed by his intelligence and kindness. The other wives, jealous of Chidi, tried to sabotage his success, but he overcame every obstacle. 10 years passed, and Adobe had another child, a daughter she named Ngozi. Ngozi was beautiful and even smarter than her brother. The village watched in amazement as Adobe's children continued to excel far beyond everyone's imagination. Though Okeke had abandoned Adobe, he soon realized that the children he ignored were becoming the most admired in Umueze. He began to regret his actions, longing to reconnect with Adobe and his remarkable children. But the wives did not relent. Uloma, Nneka, and Uju became angrier and plotted evil ways to harm Chidi and Ngozi. They whispered dark plans in secret meetings, determined to see Adobe and her children suffer again. Adobe, unaware of her plots, continued to teach her children kindness and wisdom. She told them stories of strength, endurance, and courage, preparing them for challenges they might face. One evening, Uloma tricked Chidi into going to a dangerous part of the forest, claiming there was a rare fruit that could heal his mother's sadness. Trusting and brave, Chidi agreed, but deep in the forest, he realized it was a trap. Wild animals surrounded him, their eyes hungry and fierce. Chidi remembered his mother's lessons and courageously climbed a tall tree, staying safe until the villagers found him. The incident made Adobe aware of the wife's hatred. She grew cautious, protecting her children carefully, but Chidi and Ngozi remained fearless, determined to succeed despite their enemies' plots. Years passed and Chidi and Ngozi were growing. They were respected by everyone except Okeke's jealous wives. Adobe's heart swelled with pride knowing her suffering had not been in vain. Chidi became a very good healer, helping sick people all over the village, while Ngozi started learning to teach. Their fame spread to nearby villages, and people traveled far just to seek wisdom and guidance for them as young as they were. As Adobe watched her children flourish, she felt happiness return to her life. Yet, she sensed the wife's anger still simmered dangerously beneath their smiles. Uloma secretly visited a dark sorcerer, asking him to cast a powerful spell to harm Chidi and Ngozi. The sorcerer gave her a charm, promising it would bring misfortune upon Adobe's children. One night, Uloma buried the charm beneath Adobe's hut, believing it would cause her children to fall terribly ill. But instead, the charm brought strange nightmares to Uloma, tormenting her until she came out to confess publicly. Ashamed, Uloma ran away, never to return. With Uloma gone, Nneka and Uju were fearful but remained hateful. They plotted again, hoping to ruin Adobe's family, but Adobe's strength and Chidi's wisdom shielded them from every evil attempt. Okeke, now elderly and weak, saw the truth clearly. He deeply regretted abandoning Adobe and longed to make amends. One day, he approached Adobe begging for her forgiveness. Adobe's heart softened, but Chidi and Ngozi warned their mother to be cautious. They sensed danger still lurked nearby. Adobe faced a difficult choice: forgive Okeke and risk more betrayal, or protect their children from potential harm. That night, Adobe dreamt vividly of the river goddess who warned her that the dangers were not yet over. She woke trembling, knowing she must stay strong to protect her children from unseen threats. And just as Adobe prepared herself and her family for the unknown, shadows stirred in Umueze, whispering secrets of envy, revenge, and darker dangers still to come. Adobe and her children knew their story was far from over. Adobe became even more watchful, her eyes carefully following every movement around her hut. She whispered silent prayers each night, asking the river goddess to shield Chidi and Ngozi from harm. Yet, fear lingered in her heart like a stubborn shadow. In the following days, strange things began happening. Adobe noticed that someone had scattered ashes around her hut overnight. Villagers whispered fearfully that ashes meant bad luck, but Chidi calmly reassured his mother, telling her not to worry. Ngozi, though younger, grew more alert. Her sharp eyes caught Nneka and Uju sneaking late at night around their huts, their eyes filled with mischief. Ngozi was brave and decided to tell her brother everything she saw. Chidi listened carefully, promising Ngozi they would confront this evil together. He visited the village elder, a wise man named Maazieze, known for his fairness and wisdom. Chidi explained all the troubles his family faced and how Nneka and Uju plotted harm against them. Mazieze shook his head sadly, then promised Chidi he would watch carefully and help him stop this wickedness. Days passed quietly, but tension lingered. Adobe hoped things would finally settle, but one afternoon, Ngozi returned home crying bitterly. She had been at the village stream fetching water when Nneka appeared suddenly and pushed her into the river. Ngozi struggled, nearly drowning, until some villagers rescued her. Adobe held Ngozi close, anger filling her gentle heart. She knew she had to confront the wicked wives herself. Gathering her courage, Adobe visited Okeke's main compound, standing tall before Nneka and Uju. She spoke loudly, demanding they leave her children alone. The wives laughed cruelly, mocking Adobe and calling her names. Villagers gathered, watching silently as Adobe endured their insults bravely, but when they mentioned her lost babies cruelly, tears filled Adobe's eyes, yet she stood firm, determined to protect her children at all costs. Seeing Adobe's bravery, the villagers murmured angrily against Nneka and Uju. Mazieze stepped forward, warning the wives that their wickedness had been seen and punishments would follow. Ashamed and frightened, Nneka and Uju retreated, yet secretly their anger grew deeper. They planned another wicked act, this time targeting Chidi directly. One morning, Chidi woke with a terrible pain in his legs. He couldn't walk. Adobe panicked, fearing the worst. The wives laughed secretly, thinking their charm had finally worked. But Ngozi remembered her mother's teachings and rushed to the river, begging the river goddess to help. Suddenly, a gentle old healer named Mamo Ebube appeared from nowhere. She comforted Ngozi and returned with her to the hut, examining Chidi carefully. Mamo Ebube quickly saw that this sickness was caused by dark magic, juju. Mamo Ebube prepared powerful herbs, instructing Adobe to bath Chidi's legs in the river every night. Though frightened, Adobe obeyed carefully, trusting Mamo Ebube's wisdom. Each night, under the moonlight, she washed Chidi's legs, whispering prayers of hope. Slowly, Chidi's strength returned. Within days, he stood again, stronger than ever before. The villagers were amazed, praising Adobe's faith and courage. Frustrated, Nneka and Uju grew more desperate. They secretly approached Okeke, lying that Adobe and her children were causing trouble and accusing them falsely of witchcraft. Okeke, confused and angry, confronted Adobe harshly. She looked at him sadly, seeing clearly that he still did not believe in her innocence. Chidi stood protectively beside his mother, reminding Okeke how many times Adobe had suffered because of him and his cruel wives. Ashamed, Okeke went away quietly. His heart was heavy with regret and sorrow. That night, he dreamed vividly of all the children Adobe lost. They cried bitterly in his dreams, blaming him for their mother's suffering. Okeke woke with tears, realizing the truth clearly now. Determined to change, Okeke openly apologized to Adobe, asking forgiveness again, sincerely, for all the pain he caused her. Adobe hesitated, her heart still hot, but her children encouraged her to forgive him, believing everyone deserved another chance. Though forgiven, Okeke knew he had to protect his family from further harm. He warned Nneka and Uju sternly, threatening to send them away if they continued causing trouble. Yet, unknown to all, the wives had finally planned one plan. They secretly gathered dangerous herbs, intending to poison Adobe's family food during the village harvest festival. But Ngozi, clever and watchful, overheard their evil whispers one night. She rushed home and warned Chidu, who quickly alerted Mazieze and the village elders. On the festival day, everyone gathered happily, unaware of danger. But when the wives tried to serve their poisoned food to Adobe's family, Mazieze stepped forward, revealing their evil plots. Villagers shouted angrily at Nneka and Uju, banishing them immediately from the village. Adobe breathed relief, finally feeling safe. Her children embraced her warmly, thankful they had overcome all evil plans. Life in Umueze became peaceful again. Adobe's children continued to thrive, their fame growing, but deep inside, Adobe knew their trials were not entirely over. She felt the river goddess was warning her still, whispering softly in her dreams. And so, Adobe stayed watchful, teaching Chidi and Ngozi courage and wisdom, preparing them for whatever new dangers might await them, knowing that their journey was far from complete. As peace returned briefly to the small village of Umueze, Adobe felt a quiet joy fill her heart. Chidi and Ngozi grew stronger and wiser each day, their goodness and kindness earning respect from everyone around them. Yet Adobe still felt uneasy, a quiet whisper deep inside her telling her their troubles were far from over. Months passed peacefully, and Adobe's small family enjoyed simple happiness. Chidi healed villagers with powerful herbs, earning praises from far and wide. Ngozi taught children with a kindness that warmed everyone's heart. Life seemed finally good. But one afternoon, while fetching water at the river, Adobe felt a strange cold breeze sweep around her like invisible eyes watching her. She turned quickly but saw nothing. Frightened, she hurried home, carrying water with shaky hands. That night, Adobe dreamt of shadows chasing her and her children, whispering threats she could not understand. Waking in fear, she knew she had to visit Mama Ebube again, the wise healer who had helped Chidi. Mama Ebube listened carefully as Adobe shared her fears. After a moment of silence, Mama Ebube sighed deeply and explained a secret she had hidden for years. There is an ancient curse, Mama Ebube whispered softly. Long ago, before you were born, Adobe, your great-grandmother angered the river goddess. The goddess promised to punish all women in your family by taking their children away. Adobe's heart raced with fear. Is that why my babies died? Mama Ebube nodded sadly. Yes. But Chidi and Ngozi survived because you begged the goddess each night. Yet, the goddess's anger is not entirely gone. Terrified, Adobe pleaded desperately, asking how to break the curse completely. Mama Ebube instructed her to journey deep into the forbidden forest to a sacred cave where a magical stone lay hidden. Only that stone could break the curse forever. Determined to protect her children, Adobe quickly prepared for the dangerous journey. Chidi and Ngozi insisted on coming along, unwilling to let their mother face danger alone. Together, they began their journey through the dense forest. The forest was dark and frightening. Strange sounds echoed around them, and unseen eyes watched their every move. Yet Adobe's love for her children gave her strength. They moved carefully through thorny bushes and across slippery stones, knowing danger lurked everywhere. Suddenly, from the shadows appeared an old twisted figure, a sorceress known as Nwanyike. Her eyes glowed red in the dark. She laughed cruelly, blocking their paths. You dare enter my forest? Nwanyike hissed. Only death awaits you here. Adobe bravely stood her ground. We only seek the sacred cave to save my children. Nwanyike's eyes narrowed wickedly. To pass, you must answer a riddle. Fail and you'll be trapped here forever. Chidi, brave and wise, stepped forward confidently. Ask your riddle, we are ready, he said. Smiling wickedly, Nwanyike spoke slowly. I follow you by day and vanish by night, never leaving your side, but hidden from sight. Who am I? Ngozi thought carefully, whispering to her brother. Chidi smiled confidently, turned to Nwanyike. You are a shadow. Nwanyike screamed angrily, forced to vanish as the correct answer broke her dark spell. Adobe hugged her children, proud of their cleverness. Finally, they reached the sacred cave. Inside, glowing gently, was the magical stone. As Adobe took it, the river goddess appeared suddenly, beautiful but fierce, blocking her paths. You must first prove your heart pure, said the goddess softly. Tell me your greatest wish, Adobe. Adobe smiled softly, tears filling her eyes. I only wish happiness and safety for my children. I ask nothing for myself. Moved deeply, the goddess nodded gently, allowing Adobe to take the stone. Instantly, Adobe felt peace fill her heart, knowing the curse was finally broken. But as they turned to leave, a loud roar echoed from outside. Rushing from the cave, they saw an enormous lion blocking their path, eyes fierce and hungry. Adobe's heart stopped with fear, knowing this was their final test. Without hesitation, Ngozi stepped bravely forward, holding up the magical stone. The lion stared into her brave eyes, feeling her courage and love. Slowly, the beast bowed respectfully and stepped aside, allowing them to leave unharmed. Returning to Umueze safely, Adobe placed the magical stone beneath her hut, promising peace and happiness forever. The villagers cheered joyfully, celebrating Adobe's bravery and the courage of her extraordinary children. Yet, Adobe knew that even though the curse was broken, envy and wickedness still existed. She carefully watched over her family, teaching Chidi and Ngozi always to be vigilant and wise. One evening, Okeke approached humbly, asking to reunite fully with Adobe and his children again. Adobe saw sincerity in his eyes this time and welcomed him back cautiously, hopeful but wary. Peace settled again over their lives. Chidi and Ngozi flourished, becoming famous beyond Omonze. But in the shadows, unknown enemies still plotted silently, watching Adobe's happiness with anger and envy. One night, Adobe woke suddenly, feeling an unfamiliar chill. She listened carefully and heard whispers outside her hut, voices she did not recognize. Curious and fearful, Adobe silently peeked through a small hole in the wall. She saw figures wearing cloaks, whispering quietly. She strained to hear their words clearly. She thinks it's over, one voice hissed angrily, but soon she will know true suffering. Adobe's heart raced with dread. Who were these new enemies, and why did they still seek to harm her family? Quietly returning to bed, Adobe whispered prayers softly, holding her children tightly. She knew their peace was fragile and danger was still lurking, waiting for the right moment to strike again. The village slept quietly beneath the watchful moon, unaware that darkness still hovered closely, promising that Adobe's journey was not yet over. As days passed, Adobe's heart grew heavy with worry. Though life seemed calm, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Each night, she lay awake, eyes fixed on the darkness, alert to every strange sound outside her hut. One evening, Chidi returned from the healer's hut troubled. Mother, he whispered, villagers are gossiping again. They say evil spirits still haunt our family. Adobe sighed deeply, knowing envy still filled people's hearts. She held Chidi close, whispering softly, we must be strong, my son. Jealousy cannot defeat us if we remain wise and united. Meanwhile, Ngozi, clever and watchful, noticed a strange old woman visiting Umueze again. She wore dark robes and spoke secretly to the villagers who quickly looked away whenever Ngozi approached. One afternoon, determined to find out the truth, Ngozi carefully followed the mysterious old woman into the bush. Hidden behind thick bushes, she listened closely as the woman spoke to two familiar figures, Nneka and Uju, who had secretly returned, disguised and bitter. The stone protects Adobe and her children, the woman rasped. But take the stone and their good fortune would end. Ngozi's heart pounded fearfully. She quietly raced home, urgently telling her mother everything she had overheard. Adobe's hands trembled, her mind racing. The magical stone hidden beneath their hut was their only protection. We must protect the stone, Adobe said firmly. No matter the danger, we cannot let anyone take it. That night, Adobe, Chidi, and Ngozi stayed awake, taking turns guiding the stone carefully. Hours passed quietly until suddenly a loud noise startled them. A crash outside the hut. Chidi rushed outside, torch in hand. There, lying injured on the floor, was Okeke, who had tried stopping Nneka and Uju from digging beneath the hut. He had bravely confronted them, trying to protect his family. Adobe and Ngozi ran to help him, their hearts aching with worry. Weak and hurt, Okeke whispered painfully, forgive me, Adobe, I did not realize their evil was so great. As Adobe confronted him, Chidi's sharp eyes caught movement nearby. Nneka and Uju fleeing into the darkness. He raced after them bravely, determined not to let them escape again. After a short chase, Chidi caught them at the edge of the village, bringing them back to face justice. The villagers gathered angrily, demanding punishment for Nneka and Uju. But Adobe, gentle and forgiving, spoke calmly, pleading for mercy instead. Let them go, she urged. Hatred had only caused us suffering. Moved by her kindness, the villagers agreed, punishing Nneka and Uju forever rather than punishing them harshly. Adobe hoped this kindness would finally bring peace. However, the old woman was still missing. Worried, Adobe visited Mama Ebube again, who recognized the mysterious stranger immediately. That woman is Ekemma, Mama Ebube explained gravely, a sorceress who hates your family deeply. She was the one who cast the curse on your great-grandmother long ago. Terrified, Adobe asked how to defeat Ekema. Mama Ebube gave her a special herb, instructing Adobe to scatter them around the magical stone to protect it from Ekema's dark magic. That evening, Adobe carefully sprinkled the herbs, praying softly. Just as she finished, Ekema appeared suddenly, eyes glowing angrily. You think your herbs can stop me? Ekema hissed, raising her staff menacingly. But Adobe stood bravely, facing Ekema calmly. Your hatred cannot defeat my love. Leave us alone. Ekema angrily unleashed dark spells towards Adobe, but the herbs glowed brightly, protecting her and the stone. Defeated, Ekema disappeared, screaming bitterly into the darkness. Relief flooded Adobe's heart, but she knew Ekema was only temporarily defeated. Peace returned briefly to Umueze, yet everyone remained watchful. Months later, during the harvest, Adobe noticed Chidi acting strangely. He became silent, spending hours alone. Worried, she asked him gently what troubled him. Chidi admitted quietly, I dream each night of Ekema. She whispers promises of power, trying to trick me. Adobe's heart ached fearfully. She warned Chidi sternly never to trust Ekema's lies. Chidi promised carefully, yet the dreams persisted, haunting him every night. One morning, Adobe woke to find Chidi missing. Panicked, she and Ngozi searched everywhere, but he was gone. Terrified, they realized Ekema had finally succeeded in luring Chidi away. Determined to save her brother, Ngozi bravely entered the forbidden forest alone, hoping to find Chidi before it was too late. Hidden dangers lurked everywhere, but her love for Chidi guided her steps carefully. Deep in the forest, Ngozi finally found Chidi, trapped by powerful magic. He begged her tearfully, Ngozi, run, it's a trap. Before she could react, Ekema appeared, smiling wickedly. Now I have you both, she hissed. Adobe will suffer deeply. At home, Adobe sensed danger strongly. Rushing to Mama Ebube, she pleaded urgently for help. Together, they prepared strong spells, quickly heading in the forest to rescue Chidi and Ngozi. When they arrived, Ekema stood triumphantly, confident of victory. Adobe faced her bravely, holding Mama Ebube's hand tightly. You have harmed my family enough, Adobe shouted, releasing powerful spells towards Ekema. Ekema fought fiercely, but Adobe's love and determination was stronger. Slowly, Ekema weakened, her dark spirit failing her. In a final burst of energy, Adobe destroyed Ekema's dark staff, freeing Chidi and Ngozi instantly. Weak and powerless, Ekema fled, vowing revenge one day. Exhausted but relieved, Adobe embraced her children tearfully, grateful to have them safe again. Returning home, Adobe realized how fragile their peace truly was. The family celebrated their victory, yet Adobe knew evil still existed, watching them from the shadows. Each night afterward, Adobe slept lightly, listening carefully to whispers in the dark, preparing for whatever challenges still awaiting them. Their journey of courage, strength, and resilience was far from finished, and Adobe knew she must remain brave, protecting her loved children against all unseen dangers yet to come. Adobe's life eventually settled into the kind of peace she had only dreamed of for many painful years. After countless storms, trials, and tears, happiness finally decided to stay in her heart. No longer afraid to be chased away by sorrow or envy, Chidi continued to grow stronger, wiser, and more famous, traveling to distant villages, healing the sick, and teaching others his powerful knowledge of herbs. Each time he returned, villagers lined the path, singing his praises and showering him with blessings. Chidi, humble and gentle, never forgot to thank his mother publicly, reminding everyone that it was Adobe's unwavering courage and love that gave him strength. Ngozi blossomed into an extraordinary young woman, becoming a respected leader in Umueze. Her wisdom attracted visitors from faraway land, eager to learn from her. Ngozi always treated everyone kindly, teaching children with a tenderness that brought tears to their mother's eyes. She married a kind and strong-hearted man named Emeka, who admired her intelligence and bravery, and they soon had children whose laughter filled Adobe's home with joy. Okeke, humbled deeply by his past mistakes, now moved slowly with age, gently making amends. Each day, he carefully tended Adobe's garden, quietly showing his remorse through simple acts of kindness. He never again took Adobe's forgiveness for granted, spending the rest of his days trying to earn back the respect and trust of the village and his family. The village of Umeze itself had changed. Gone were the whispers of curses and misfortune. Instead, the villagers proudly told stories about Adobe, the woman who bravely fought every kind of darkness and triumphed because of love, forgiveness, and strength. She became a living legend, a symbol of hope to all those who suffered. Nneka and Uju eventually sent letters, humbled by time, asking Adobe's forgiveness. She wrote back gently, forgiving them completely, reminding them that bitterness destroyed lives, while forgiveness freed the hearts. Adobe's kindness brought tears to their eyes, finally releasing them from their own inner suffering. One peaceful afternoon, as Adobe sat beneath her favorite mango tree, surrounded by her grandchildren's playful laughter, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. She remembered the days when her heart was filled with silence and sorrow, and how she had wondered if happiness would ever truly stay. Now, warmth and joy were permanent residents, chasing away the dark memories with smiles and songs. Mama Ebube visited Adobe often, their friendship growing stronger with each passing year. They shared laughter and wisdom, becoming pillars of strength for the younger women of the village. Adobe often thanked Mama Ebube for guiding her through the hardest times, acknowledging that her wise counsel had become a beacon of hope. And when Chide married a lovely woman named Ifeoma, whose kind heart matched his own, Adobe danced joyfully at their wedding celebration, her feet light despite her age. The villagers clapped and cheered, feeling deep pride that Adobe's family had become the greatest blessing Umeze had ever known. As she grew older, Adobe continued to tell stories to her children beneath moonlit skies, recounting her life's trials with wisdom, grace, and humor. Her stories inspired strength in their young hearts, teaching them lessons of courage, forgiveness, and kindness. Then one warm evening, with the golden sun gently painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Adobe sat quietly, surrounded by her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Her heart overflowed with peaceful joy. She took a deep breath and spoke softly, her voice calm yet powerful. My children, life is never without challenges. Darkness will sometimes knock at your door, bringing fear and pain. But remember always, love is stronger than any cause, stronger than any jealousy, stronger than even sorrow. Never surrender your kindness, your strength, or your forgiveness. These gifts will lead you through every storm safely. As Adobe finished speaking, tears gently rolled down her cheeks, but they were tears of gratitude, joy, and fulfillment. Her children embraced her tenderly, promising to honor her lessons forever. And as the moon rose above Umueze that night, Adobe's heart was at peace, knowing her journey had finally reached a beautiful, well-deserved ending. Her legacy would remain forever, a story whispered by mothers to children, a testament that true strength is found not in anger or revenge, but in courage, patience, forgiveness, and unending love. The moral of this story is that patience, courage, forgiveness, and unwavering love can overcome even the deepest pain, envy, and darkness. Adobe's journey teaches us never to lose hope, even when life becomes unbearably hard, and never to let bitterness or hatred control our hearts. Her resilience in the face of continuous suffering, the strength she showed in protecting her children, and her ability to forgive those who wronged her demonstrate that true happiness and peace come from kindness, humility, and the courage to face life's trials without giving up. Thank you for listening to this amazing story. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and share this story with your loved ones who will enjoy it also. See you in the next story. Bye.